Good evening and welcome to tonight's broadcast with me, Gloria Mutesi. Starting us off tonight, President Paul Kagame has described Rwanda as a country that could not sink into divisionism. That may lead to the genocide because for the past 27 years, authorities have promoted inclusive politics without discrimination. The head of state reiterated this in an exclusive interview with Al Jazeera. Ethan Tashiba begins our coverage tonight.
The president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, talks to Al Jazeera.
During the interview, which took place at Village Rugwiro and lasted for about 25 minutes, President Paul Kagame answered questions from Al Jazeera's Al-Dafiri on a variety of topics including politics, Rwanda's development, governance, Rwanda's foreign relations and more. While discussing the steps taken to build a new Rwanda, President Kagame said that for the past 25 years, the country has built a policy and administration that gives hope for the future, and there is no fear that the history of the genocide against the Tutsi can be repeated.
Truly, we have come from far, almost to non-existence, to now where we are. The country is stable, it's peaceful, we're making progress, there is growth, there is development. People are coming back together. The country was so divided in the past. Now there is unity in the country. So I think progress is on. There is still a lot of work to do. We have a long journey to travel to be where we want to be.
What are the guarantees that Rwanda will not return to these very difficult days?
Well, because we are not working towards that. We are working towards something else. We do it in a sustainable manner. And it is sustainable because of, one, the people themselves that get involved and understand the need for doing what they are doing. Two, it brings stability and continue to build on that. So we concentrated on building a foundation, we build institutions. We also tried to create a mindset change generally for our people.
Journalist Al-Dafiri also asked the president what he thought of accusations against Rwanda of not giving a platform to the opposition and not tolerating dissidents. President Kagame slammed the claims.
The opposition exists. The opposition means people having different views about governance, about whatever is happening in the country. Even if they were 10 and were pursuing different lines of thinking, political thinking, they converge on one thing, all of them. That's my expectation. They converge on the well-being of the people and also the stability of the country they did. I think on that one, they don't disagree. I don't think there would be anyone called the opposition, and that is understood as being opposed to the established arrangement that is there at that time, thinking that, no, I want to remove these ones and bring instability to the country. So in other words, those are things they converge on. So in our case, we have also had that anyway in our history. We have had instability. And we have had instability at a time. In fact, these different parties, called opposition parties, had emerged. And all of them participated in that instability, all the parties. This genocide you hear about that happened 27 years ago, it doesn't matter which side they were coming from. So there was no opposition, so-called, which you mentioned, that stood up and said, no, we can't go down this road. They actually each participated in that. Why would you think that happened? So I'm trying to bring to your attention the fact that each country has its own context and circumstances in which to operate. Therefore, you don't want to establish just a template and say every country must follow this way of doing things.
In the interview, the president also answered questions about the activities of the Rwandan armed forces in the Central African Republic and Mozambique, where they have been deployed for almost 5 months to fight terrorists that have devastated the province of Cabo Delgado. Reporting for RwandaTV News, Ethan Tashabia.
Now, this Sunday morning, President Paul Kagame participated in Car Free Day, a mass sports event which takes place twice a month and serves to make Kigali a green city while promoting a healthy lifestyle. He was accompanied by Sports Minister Aurora Mimosa and Kigali City Mayor Prudence Rubinjita. President Paul Kagame took to his Twitter to say how it was liberating to join Car Free Day today and walk the streets of Kigali after so many months of COVID-19 restrictions. See you all at the next Car Free Day, the head of state added. First Lady Jeanette Kagame, along with friends and family, also participated in Car Free Day in Kigali City this Sunday. The bi-monthly physical mass sports exercise known as Car Free Day was among sports activities which were suspended in March 2020 to avoid the spread of the coronavirus pandemic after the first case was reported in Rwanda the same month. Moving on, children between the ages of 12 to 18, most of whom are still in high school, say they are ready to receive the COVID-19 vaccines. They say this as COVID-19 vaccines will be administered to this age category in the city of Kigali from next week. Sam Kalisa now reports.
Wase Aline Bijou is a senior 4 student. She claims that the COVID-19 pandemic delayed her education, stressing that she is to get vaccinated among the first, something she shares with many others.
It is something we are proud of as children, and we feel that our country cares about us as its children. No problem. We are ready for the vaccine and we are very happy.
It will prevent us from wasting our time at home again when measures like lockdowns are put in place. Staying at home delays our education. Usually, before being vaccinated, one must sign a consent form, and in this case, they will be signed by parents, some of whom say they are very prepared to do so because they understand the value of the vaccine to their children. I'll play my role in the vaccination. Even if I get busy, their mother will be there. So there's no problem because I was vaccinated too.
I'll sign on their behalf because I was vaccinated too, and it caused me no trouble. I'm actually happy for them. I will sign for them so they can get vaccinated and continue their studies.
Consent forms have begun to be delivered to boarding schools. Mbabazi Daniel, the dean at a past secondary school in Kigali, revealed that preparations are underway. We are talking to them to help them understand that it is not harmful. There are some of them that have been vaccinated, so they witnessed it. We urge parents to come and fill these consent forms so that their children can be vaccinated. The Ministry of Health has announced that it will work with education authorities to make sure that as many children as possible in schools are vaccinated. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Mhunga Tarsis, noted that it was time for students to be vaccinated and that this will play a role to the fight against the pandemic. You remember how in the recent days the COVID-19 pandemic affected students due to high rates of infections that forced schools to be closed. It has been evident that as more adults get vaccinated, high infections remain among children. So vaccinating them is necessary because research has shown that vaccinating them helps in fighting the pandemic. Meanwhile, on Sunday, security forces, including the army and the police, participated in the vaccination campaign in public places, including markets, churches, among other places. Rwanda has recently been receiving COVID-19 vaccines, including 1.6 million Moderna vaccines donated by the government of Canada as part of the COVAX program. This week, the country also received the first batch of 409,600 doses of AstraZeneca donated by Luxembourg.
Now, in celebration of the 75th anniversary of King Mutara III Rudahigwa's dedication of Rwanda to Christ the King, Catholics say much has been done over the years, including the expansion of schools, hospitals, and that the religion has since become rooted in the hearts of Rwandans. Sam Kalisa continues.
The 75th anniversary of the dedication of Rwanda to Christ by the King of Rwanda was marked by a mass that was conducted in Busasamana sector, Nyanza district. 70-year-old Munyentwari Alphonse says the act of dedication of Rwanda to Christ, the King, by King Mutara III, was because his father, King Yuhi V, had been exiled by the Belgians because he was against Belgian rule. Because he saw his father had been exiled because of going against Belgian rule, he decided to do otherwise by showing that Rwandans accept Christ the King, because either way, as Rwandans, we already knew God. There was nothing that was going to stop him because he was king. Some Christians say that since Rwanda's dedication to Christ the King, there has been an increase in educational, medical, and religious services, and that faith is now more evident than before. It is not just in this area. I'm talking about across Rwanda. After being dedicated to Christ the King, it was like a key that unlocked evangelism in Rwanda, ultimately leading to development, like you have seen especially in schools and many other developments, and that's after Rwanda has been dedicated to Christ the King. The Bishop of Butare Diocese, Bishop Philippe Rukamba, who led the celebration mass, says that King Mutara's dedication of Rwanda to Christ the King was not a colonial move, as had been said by many people. Some might think Christianity is a form of colonialism, but the king knew what he was doing. He was Christian, whereas his family members were not. The other thing is that he could have just done it and not dedicated Rwanda to Christ the King, but he knew what he was doing, and he knew that the greatest king of all is Christ Jesus. King Mutara III, Rudahigwa Charles Leo Pierre, was born in Nyanza district, Southern Province in March 1911. On October 17, 1943, he was baptized by Bishop Leon Class, who named him Charles Leo Pierre. King Mutara III, Rudahigwa, pursued a policy of reconciliation with the Catholic Church and the Belgian government to the point when he surrendered Rwanda to Christ the King in a dedication event held in Nyanza, Southern Province, in October 27, 1946. This date has since become a significant date in the calendar of the Catholic Church.
To other matters now, some investors in the mining sector say they are ready to deal with the losses they faced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has assured the miners support in terms of finding solutions to the challenges they face. Let's now hear from Jane Motoni.
We found Yankurije Angelique, a miner, at the mining station. She says during the first periods of the COVID-19 pandemic, working was difficult. She says her and the colleagues are doing their best to step up their efforts to maximize their produce. This is my source of income, so one can imagine how tough life became then. Me and my colleagues decided to work together and increase the produce as we cope with the impacts of COVID-19. Investors in the mining sector say that although they faced losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they are going to ensure that they compensate these losses by increasing their productivity. When changes occur and disrupt the routine of working, it affects the productivity. At some point, we were facing an issue of late salary payments due to very little income that was coming in.
Importing goods from abroad was very difficult because they would delay to arrive on top of being expensive, yet they're a necessity because our kind of mining requires good and high quality equipment. So the first thing is to increase productivity, and by that we need to keep our labor force.
The Rwanda Mining Association says that this year they have tried to find solutions to the challenges they are facing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Deputy CEO of Rwanda Mines Petroleum and Gas Board, Dr. Ivan Kwagirashema, says the government has made it a priority to work with these miners by supporting them in terms of increasing productivity.
They are not discouraged because we've decided to support them and to be partners in everything from financial rebuilding to increasing knowledge and so on. We shall also provide them with highly skilled and up-to-date staff.
Statistics from the National Bank of Rwanda show that in 2020, the mining production declined by 25.8%, while in 2021 it has risen by 1.5%, while in general the industrial sector grew by 8.9%. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
Staying in the mining sector, residents of Chigabiro sector in Ramagana district who live near the mining quarries of St. Simeon Limited are worried about how the excavations will be carried out near their houses, some of which have been destroyed. However, the company's management says the inspections have shown that the excavation site has no impact on the neighboring community. Jane Mutoni continues with this story.
The mining quarries are within 200 meters from where residents live and their property. Residents, however, are showing quarries which have been dug in their fields near their homes, where miners were trying to dig into these minerals and leave them unattended. They say the mining process has had an impact on them, especially on their assets above the excavation site.
The machines they use while mining shake our buildings and hence damaging our homes.
The management of the St. Simeon Limited mining company does not accept the allegations, as various inspections have been carried out to determine if there is a problem, but instead ask victims to report it.
The mining site is within 200 meters from where residents live. We make sure that this process doesn't affect the residents, and even when a person reports that there is a house being damaged, we compensate them.
An employee at the Rwanda Mines Petroleum and Gas Board, in charge of legal and audits, said the inspections were carried out with the local authorities present, and it proven that the excavations were being carried out so far down in the underground in a way that no properties could be damaged.
There are excavations that take place on the surface and other excavation activities that are done underground. Inspections have shown that this sort of mining cannot affect people's homes. What is happening is that people are beginning to get ideas that there is some kind of share they deserve, yet compensation can only be made for those who have been required to stop farming on their land due to the mining activities that are to be done there.
The St. Simeon Limited Mining Company covers an area of 50 hectares and plans to expand its operations. Coltan and wolframite minerals are the most common in the area. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
Now, residents that live near Lake Nasho have noted that the Nasho solar-powered irrigation scheme is an indication of the government's vision for its people. Eastern Province officials have also noted that Nasho solar-powered irrigation scheme is a project that aims at mitigating the effects of climate change, and more projects like these will be put into consideration. Ghislaine Mugwaneza now reports.
The Nasho solar-powered irrigation scheme is a project that is being implemented in Nasho of Rwanda's Eastern Province. The irrigated crops are grown on almost 1,200 hectares of land. Water comes from Lake Nasho using irrigation machines. More than 2,000 farmers are the beneficiaries of this project. 54 billion francs were invested by Howard G. Buffett Foundation in partnership with the Rwandan government. According to the residents, this is a sign of a country with vision.
This project is based on a country that looks far, because had we not had the project and had no rainfall as well, it would have been worse. A lot has changed in my life, in the ways of living and in educating my children. Some of my children already completed university and others are still in school. We even bought vehicles.
Things are well now. We no longer experience hunger. We save food and provide for others that do not have. We're grateful to His Excellency Paul Kagame that thought of letting this irrigation project to be implemented here. Before the official launch of the Nasho solar-powered irrigation scheme, a trial period was first observed in order to convince the residents and prepare them for the project implementation.
It is true. A big investment was made on this project, and it requires us to be near them day by day. That is why I was assigned to look after the solar-powered irrigation scheme, so that we know its daily information in order to avoid bad effects that may occur later. And as it is done anywhere else in the country, we are responsible of supporting them in every way possible. This project really made a great impact. These farmers would harvest in one season and skip 2 seasons with no production. Because of these infrastructures, they grow crops and harvest in all seasons. They can even cultivate 3 times a year.
Eastern Province officials have noted that National Solar-Powered Irrigation Scheme is a project that aims at mitigating the effects of climate change, and more projects like this will be put into consideration. Due to the land consolidation system that was applied, the project has been very productive. Shislen Mugwaneza, RTV News.
So we will leave it at that for today. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Have a great week ahead. God bless you and keep you. And until next time, I am Gloria Mutesi. Bye for now.